Judy.
Yeah, boy, this gonna be golden for him when he get grown.
What?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
the stars, man. Big C Dub.
yeah.
the
This gonna be golden for him when he grow up.
I wanted to get to that too, man. I want to see, and maybe it's too early, but a documentary. I've heard you tell your story.
No. Listen, it's so if you go on YouTube now, so we got a documentary that's being shopped around.
Okay.
I've had $300,000 offered for it.
Okay.
So we shopping around right now. It got my mom, it got Dewberry mom, it got my Hispanic buddy Jose Rodriguez, who one of the first Latin kings to come to Fort Worth in the '80s.
Okay.
It goes back to the juvenile facility, so it talks to Mr. Davis, Mr. Jones. It goes back to the juvenile facility we was locked up in, and then it highlights me walking through the community and seeing how my city and my community really respond to me, and those that can has a lot of recollection of the crime.
Wow.
So I had a very high profile crime, homie, as a kid. So we were front page paper, a very high profile in the news, and so I came out blessed because of my mother and her financial resources. Okay. So now we got a documentary that's coming out now. So you can see some of the trailers on YouTube on Infomize.
What they got to type in there?
Is Giddings, Charleston White, Giddings and Beyond.
Okay.
Yeah, so it talks about three teenagers who were tried and adjudicated for the crime of murder as children. Two of them was transferred into the adult prison system from the juvenile system, and then I aged out of the juvenile system. Right. So I was locked up from 14 to 21. So when I left at 21, I had been locked. One of the kids is locked up longest in Texas in the juvenile facility.
Wow.
So I grew up in the boys' home. Yeah, I'm a state baby.
A lot to learn.
Yeah, I'm a state baby.
Homes, boy. A lot to learn.
But you did speak on how, was it the COs in there that looked out?
Yeah. How we had some good people. We went to a city that was, had a lot of black people. So we had a lot of black workers. And we was fortunate enough to grow up in an era where these people really believed that they could make a difference in children's lives. Unlike today. Man, most people today write off badass kids.
It's rough.
But nah, homie, we so one of the workers in the documentary, Mr. Davis, homie, he had been working in the juvenile system since the 70s. Up until the 2000s. So he damn near did 40-something years.
Know some things.
Mr. Jones did like 30-something years. So, nigga, when I got there, they had already been there like, nigga, 15, 20 years since the mid-70s when I got there in the 90s. But we had a governor, Ann Richards at the time, who was a struggling drug addict. So she spent a lot of money.
Governor.
Yeah, Ann Richards.
Ann Richards. Was a struggling...
A recovering alcoholic and a struggling drug addict who had been popping pills.
Wow.
And she became governor. And so
wow.
She was one of the first politicians to start implementing treatment programs in prisons and in jails. And so she put a lot of money. They spent like $120,000 per kid at the time. To keep us incarcerated. So we had the best of the best. It wasn't until Governor Bush came along. And his political platform was get tough on juvenile crime. So he became harder on children. So that's how he ended up getting elected. But the focus was on rehabilitation and resocialization of the child. So repairing the harm. So it focused on child trauma. So when I spent 7 years going through the best therapy, best psychiatrists, best psychologists, some of the most intense group therapy. And so I went through a program called the Capital Offenders Program. And so in the Capital Offenders Program, they had this unique counseling and therapy that was world renowned. That was called the Capital Offenders Program, and it was psychodrama. And psychodrama, where we went through therapy and we had to reenact our crimes.
Work through.
We had to reenact. Yeah, homie, it was some psychological shit. They was brainwashing us. So I'm the product of an experiment, homie, that worked.
Yeah. Wow.
They didn't know the results of it, right? So we're the first generation of children who began to commit murder and capital murder in Texas. And so they took us and they created a law, and the law was called the Texas Juvenile Determined Sentencing Law. And with this law, a kid can be sentenced up to 40 years for the violent crimes that they commit. So you had violent A offenders, you had violent B offenders, and then you had determined sentence. So determined sentence was mostly guys who had capital murder, attempted capital murder, murder, attempted murder, arson, kidnapping.
All PBLs, all.
Yeah, kidnapping, sexual assault, and child molestation. So they put us in this program, and so these three psychologists came up with this concept and this theory. It's called the positive peer culture. And so this whole facility, this positive peer culture was implemented into this facility. And so it's like the kids really ran the program. The staff just overseen it, except that we had a psychologist, we had a psychiatrist, and we had a caseworker. Each child had those three elements. And so, homie, we went through intense therapy. That psychodrama was some shit. There was no way that a kid could enter into these programs and beat it. You can't front through it because you don't have the emotional makeup and the psychology to do it. So in these programs is where is how you develop victim empathy. Yeah, homie, they were brainwashing us, and they was giving us all the tools and all the skills that we needed to come out here and be successful if you could grasp it. Most niggas could, because it was more psychological. Some of the niggas couldn't. I was a kid who rejected it from the beginning, so I never got into it until I started getting older. So imagine, from 14 to 17, I'm gangbanging. So I'm not grabbing this shit. I'm rejecting it. But nigga, when I started paying attention to it, it's what developed me today. You can't beat it. The niggas who went on to prison, they became mastermind criminals in prison. Because they grew up in a juvenile system, they became institutionalized. Nigga, they know how to manipulate the system. They can manipulate the guards. So you talking about niggas like Dewberry and them who spent 18, 19 years in prison from when they were 15. That's just one portion. The rest of my niggas spent 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30 years in prison from age 12, 13, and 14. They just not coming home today, nigga. So, because of what they taught us.
Boy's been gone.
Yeah, homie. So because of what they taught us, homie, and what they brainwashed us with, you can't put us in no system. Homie, we'll dominate your system. Mm-hmm. They struggle out here because they have the tools and the skills, but they don't have the life experiences. So they struggle. But if you put them niggas in any kind of institution, any kind of structured environment, structured program, nigga, they would flourish. Mm-hmm. That's why if you put them niggas in them 18-wheelers, they become great truck drivers. That's why if you put them niggas on a job, they become, and you give them a supervisor position, and these procedures tell these niggas how to operate, they flourish.
Makes sense, yeah.
They flourish in that structured environment because they institutionalized. They can't think outside of rules. They can't think out of don't do this, nigga. They can't think outside of that. You give them niggas too much freedom, they'll crash out. They need a parole officer. They need a woman saying, nigga, where you at? Come home. They need that, nigga.
Yeah. 10, 15 years, you got a master's degree in procedure.
Yeah, I'm the kid in the individual that you can't do that to because I have a limited setting personality. So I gotta have some freedom. If you put me in a more of a structured environment, nigga, I'm gonna get in trouble. It's too. I ain't structured. I'm free spirited. So they teach you. They teach. So learning you, homie. Nigga, if nigga don't get nothing else out of what I'm saying, you have to master you so you can learn you. Because that's all jail do to you. Niggas go teach you how to operate within you.
Sure.
With nothing to do. Yeah. Ain't got shit to do with nothing, nigga. But you go learn you. You go learn what you know, if you don't like being alone. So that's the whole struggle for a nigga, homie, trying to find himself outside of all this bullshit.
Something I spoke about on here before. It's like, as soon as I turned old enough to go to jail, I went to jail. I was 17 years old.
Most of us do.
I was 17 years old. They tried me as an adult. I went to the big boys, okay? But one thing I realized, I had to figure out who I was while I was locked up, because when you out here, and even at the age of 17, 18, I got the car I like to drive, the music I like to listen to, the haircut, the girls, my room with my posters and this and my schedule, my routine. You go to jail, you don't have none of that. We all got the same cut, eating the same food. We wake up at the same time, clean at the same time, this, that, chess, newspaper, whatever the fuck it is. We all in the same fucking boat. I had to basically figure out who I was without all the things that I felt made me me. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So you're right. Go to that little solitary confinement, go to that little adult timeout, however you want to look at it. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. And if you're not interested in doing that, you're not serving the purpose of being there, okay?
Well, you gonna go down there and get with the hood.
You gonna come up, you gonna fuck around and become somebody else.
There you go. You go get with the hood. You gonna have to go fit in with the group.
Shout out to my guy Marco, who I grew up with. Young black man, grown to a grown black man, and he just made his. He just put out his first book. It's called Self Mastery in a Digital Age, and it's about learning about yourself. You know what I mean? It's about how to master what he was just saying. You know, mastery.
And he's military.
You know, he went through it all. He's been through it all. He's been through the system, and he's got his chance. And he was able to jump into the military and figuring out how that worked for him. And, you know, he's running hospitals. You know, he helped me build business. And this is from trapping. This is from us starting out trapping, you know what I mean? And he's somebody that's been by my side the entire time, and he's got a book out, and you know, and that to me is the dopest. You know, I'm over here doing the podcast. I'm thinking I'm doing great shit, and I am. I'm not gonna sit there and discredit what I'm doing. But when my guy told me he was writing a book, and he was like, "No, this book I got the plan out. It's gonna be done in 10 weeks," and da. It's like that's not easy.
Yeah,
and he was able to go out and do it. Before I let you go, I did want to talk to you about FBG Duck, because you did talk to me about his mom.